Y'all know what it is.
As someone who is interested in possibly getting into this field, there's so many certifications and so many different routes and paths you can go down. Uh, can you give like an introductory course or an introductory path for someone who might be interested in pursuing this field? Is military the best option? Do you think that that would be the smartest route to get in and get your feet wet, or taking your programs and your classes online? One thing I like about your website over others that I've seen is you actually break it down into IT or cybersecurity, and then you have a full path that you use from, and then you go from there, which is really, really neat, because I've been down the route trying to learn how to, program and do different things, and I just jump into a language not knowing what I want and waste 6 months trying to learn one thing, and then I don't even know HTML or CSS or the things that you really should learn first. So I like that you break it down in a path. But as someone who's getting started, what would you recommend someone do?
Yeah, that's great. Great question. So one of the things that I learned early in my career is I had a mentor who told me you should always be thinking 5 years ahead. And his point in that was, you're not thinking about the job you're in today. It's where do you want to be in 5 years? Because based on that, you can figure out how you're going to get there. Because to get that job that you want in 5 years, you probably have to have 1 or 2 jobs leading up to that to get to that skill set, or a couple of certifications or a degree or something of that nature. So generally, when I have a new student who comes to me and they say, hey, I want to be in cybersecurity, my first question is, well, what in cybersecurity do you want to do? And one of the best places to go for that is there's a website called cyberseek.org. Cyber, C-Y-B-E-R, seek, S-E-E-K.org. And it's a nonprofit site run by Computational and a bunch of others. And they actually have a little chart called the pathway. And you can click on that and say, I want to be a penetration tester, for instance. And it'll say, well, if you're going to be a penetration tester, normally the path is you come in through this route, or this route. And then you click there and it'll tell you to get to that route, you keep moving left until you get to the entry-level jobs. And so it'll take you from the beginning entry-level jobs up to the advanced jobs. And that really is your 5 to 10 year plan. For instance, let's say you want to be a penetration tester, the guy who sits there and hacks corporate networks and tries to break in to find all those issues. To have that skill set, it's not an entry-level job. To be a penetration tester, you have to understand networks. You have to understand operating systems. You have to understand a little bit of coding and scripting. You need to understand security. And you need to understand how these things are designed to work on the administration side and the operation side, so you can find the flaws and break into them. And so that's one of the, I think, the biggest misconceptions inside cybersecurity is a lot of people say, you'll see all these newspaper articles, they'll say there are, 21 million jobs that are open for this type of thing, or there's, 3 million empty jobs in cybersecurity in 2021 was the last one I had seen. And the problem is those aren't entry-level jobs, even though they're entry-level in cybersecurity, because being entry-level in cybersecurity means you already have 2 or 3 years of experience in IT operations. Because if you've never been a system administrator and you try to be a pen tester, you're going to fail because you don't understand those things. You don't understand what the good guys are doing to try to protect it. If you understand what the good guys are doing, you can then figure out how to exploit those things. And that's really, it's kind of the, we call it blue team, red team, blue team defense, red team attack. And it's hard to be red team if you've never been blue team. If you've never defended, it's hard to attack and find your way through. I like to equate it, if you think about your house, right? Let's say your house right now, as you're sitting there, you want to make sure that nobody can break into your house. Well, you're going to go around, you're going to lock all your doors, you're going to lock all your windows. But if you just leave one of those windows open, the burglar, as they go around your house, is going to check every door and window until they find that one open window. And that's how they're going to get in. And it's the same thing with attackers. Unless you are 100% locked down, somebody is going to find a way in. And the problem is in cyber and in IT, we can never be 100% locked down, because the only way to 100% lock down your computer is to take it off the internet and be offline. And if you're online on the internet, there's always going to be a way into your computer. I know that sounds scary, but it's just true. There's always going to be a way in. So we try to layer up defenses. We try to find ways to block things. So maybe if you have your window open, you have a gate around your property and that gate is locked. So that helps prevent people from getting to the house to be able to open the window. And so you have to start layering your defenses to be able to protect from those. Going back to your question, as far as, the traditional pathway, the first 3 things that most people start out with is the A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus certifications. These are certifications from CompTIA. A+ is hardware and software. So you're learning, how does Windows work? How does Linux work? How does Mac work? How does hardware work? Like, what does a hard drive do versus RAM versus, the motherboard versus the graphics card? all of that type of stuff at the individual workstation level. Then the next one is Network Plus, and that starts talking about routers and switches and how we connect things inside our houses and out to the internet at large. Because most of what we do as an attacker is focused on network exploitation, because most people aren't going to be in your office trying to break into your computers. They're coming from over the internet. And so if you don't understand how networks work, you're not going to be able to defend against that. And then the third layer is security, and that's kind of the entry-level cybersecurity certification. But like I said, just to get to that entry-level cybersecurity, you already kind of need to know the hardware, software, and networks to understand that. And that's Security Plus. It focuses on the domain environment, which is multiple computers in a small or medium-sized office, and the different ways that we can use things like encryption, patching, understanding all the different threats and vulnerabilities like ransomware versus viruses versus worms, and understanding how all that works so you can help defend against it. So that's kind of the first place to start. We call that the Computational trifecta.
I like that. So as someone who might be just trying to get started in this, what's an actual kind of a realistic estimate as to how long it would take to complete these certifications and possibly get into an entry-level position? I know you got the super smart people out there that have a great knowledge and can just jump in and learn it real quick versus an average person. Is it a 5-year period? Is it a 6-year period, a 2-year period?
Oh, no.
What?
No, definitely not that long.
Yeah.
So the great thing about IT and cybersecurity in general is that it's not necessarily that you need to have a 4-year college degree to get into this, right? Generally, the things that we look for are experiences first and foremost, secondary certifications, and then third is degrees. So let's talk about the certifications for a moment here, because that goes directly to your question. When I talk about something like the A+, most students will do that within 1 to 2 months, basically between watching videos, reading a textbook, studying, and taking the exam. Usually takes about a month to 2 months if you're doing it part-time in your nights and weekends because you have a regular job. If you go to a boot camp environment where you just do it, hey, I'm doing nothing but this for the next week or two, most students can do that within 1 to 2 weeks and knock that certification out. And that's a 2-part certification for A+. It's the hardware and the software, so it's 2 different tests. And you got to pass both of those to become A+ certified. The second level is Network Plus. Normally, that's about 40 hours worth of effort, so it's about a week. If you're doing it full time, if you're doing it nights and weekends, again, about a month. And then Security Plus, the same. It's about a week of effort or a month if you're doing it part time. In my programs, we have what we call the 60-day pass guarantee. So when somebody signs up for our course, we give them 60 days to complete the course and take their certification. And that's to help force them into doing this very quickly instead of dragging it out over months. And by doing that, if they don't pass their exam after that 60-day guarantee on our site, we actually buy their retake voucher. Because some of these certifications can get pretty expensive. Most of these certifications cost between $300 and up to $1,200 to take. The CompTIA ones are about $300, $350. So a lot of students are worried, hey, if I take this and I fail, I got to pay another $350 to take it again. And so that's one of the things that we try to do is stand behind our products to help people over that hurdle. But yeah, so it's not that it takes a long time to get the certifications, but you do have to put forth the effort and you have to take the time to study it. And then as far as, getting into the career, the biggest piece is experience. And this is one of the reasons why people have a lot of trouble getting their first cybersecurity job, because employers are looking for somebody who has experience. And so if you come in and you have zero experience in IT, you've never been a system administrator, you've never been a network admin, you got 3 or 4 certifications and you apply for a job, most employers aren't going to hire you because you have zero experience and they want somebody who is known and proven. And that's one of the reasons that's leading to this big gap in the cybersecurity workforce between a lot of jobs are available and not a lot of people are getting hired for those jobs, because the employers want that perfect unicorn who has lots of experience, lots of certifications, and is ready to just, take them from company A, put them in company B, and they can go right to work. And a lot of students are reluctant to start out on the operations side because they keep hearing about how cybersecurity is this awesome career field that makes all this money. So everybody wants to start on that side of the business. But to get to that side of the business, the easiest path is to come in through the operations side.
Yeah, that's true. I saw this meme on LinkedIn earlier today. It was this toddler reading the HTML programming thing, and it was like when they expect 10 years of experience from a 20-year-old. it was just like,
it's funny because there actually are things like that. Like I was looking at one job post a couple of years ago, and it said must have 10 years of Go language experience. That was a programming language made by Google. Yeah. The language was only 3 years old. Nobody has 10 years of experience, right? Even Google didn't create it 10 years ago. So sometimes there's a disconnect between what employers are asking for and what really is reality. And when it comes to that, it's one of the things I tell students is don't be scared off based on what they're asking for. Still apply for the job, because if they're asking for something stupid like that, 10 years of experience with a language that's been around for 3 years, they're never going to find anybody. So at least if you apply, you may get it because you have 2 or 3 years of experience. So there is some of that happens. And that's because there's a disconnect between the way hiring works in the cybersecurity world and what reality is. Hiring is done by HR folks. HR folks are not cybersecurity professionals. They have no idea what a CISSP is, or a CEH, or a Security Plus. They just know that somebody said, hey, I need somebody to fill this job, and I want to pay them X amount of dollars, is what we're budgeted for this. And they go, oh, well, if it's going to be $100,000, that person should have an equivalent of 10 years of experience, and they should have XYZ certifications and maybe a 4-year bachelor's degree. And so they'll put that as a requirement, even though that really has nothing to do with the job you're going to do. And that's why experience trumps everything else. And they go from experience to certifications to degrees in that order. Because if you have experience, you're in the door. If you don't, you can supplement that by using those certifications. And then usually the degrees are just to help establish what your pay band is going to be when you get that job.